I prematurely hit the button. I don't think you were ready, Brakken.
I was prepared today. Usually I'm finishing up chewing or swallowing or something. I got all that done.
Before I hit the button, I decided to hit the button right away because two things. One, I have a 5K in about a week and a half, and I'm going to hit my last big sharpening workout after this, the one where I'm not holding back, we will call it. I got about 9 days till race day. That's the sweet spot, in my opinion, for like one last true big effort where you're actually pressing the pedal down, and then I'm going to keep the RP a little lower between now and race day on the quality. And then you you're kind of all in right now on training, and you just described to me a really big sessions you did yesterday. And I think it's important for people to hear, sort of like practicing what we preach, which our listeners know we do. But I don't know, you have 14 weeks until your next race? Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
And you did
14 weeks until High Rock Chicago.
And threshold training, double threshold training is all the rage. It's been all the rage for, 2 years, let's call it. We can credit the Ingebrigtsens for that, which we're going to get to, the Olympic races that we didn't touch on in our Friday episode. That's what you guys are hearing today. But there's threshold training, double threshold training, and then there's this whole sector of people in the hybrid space, the redheaded stepchild of pure running and pure crossfitting. And you did a double threshold hybrid session yesterday, and now we got a bunch of moving parts. And I just think that's interesting to chat out because I know a lot of our listeners are in the hybrid space. And so you should talk through that real quick, what you did yesterday and why.
Okay.
Are you cool with that?
Well, yeah. For as long as I've been back to training since my MCL sleep injury, which is still one of the low points of me as an athletic person, I've been straddling the line between exercising and training. And I'm healthy, I'm semi-fit, and I'm ready for training. So now 14 weeks till High Rocks, and I think I described it to you as like a serious training camp, where I have fitness to build and to make up for. And I want to get to it and not miss for 14 weeks. But in order to do that, I have to not overreach right now. So I did basically a hybrid double threshold workout. I'm going to say the theory behind it first before people start judging why I was doing what I was doing. My deficiencies in High Rocks specifically are the stations. I can build compromise running pretty quickly. Speed's not going to be my upper limiter. It's going to be unable to access anything because the stations crush me. So rather than having what the final 7 weeks will look like, or 6 weeks, which will be very much higher run volume and everything like that with stations to be race specific, I'm starting with a lot of station work with run finishers. So that's just kind of the first 6 to 7 weeks are get more accustomed to the station and power output work and be able to access running, and then race sharpen after. So session 1 was a 2-part kind of threshold station work, and then part 2 was running. So it was a 1,000-meter row into a 4-minute push down pull back on sleds. So accumulate a lot of work on it, but don't blow out in any one particular direction. But keeping the sled pull weight the same as the push, because the pull was a very big issue for me in both my High Rockses. So targeting goal High Rocks row pace or under, and then just grind against the sled and don't blow up. So 3 rounds of that. So 3,000 meters of rowing and 12 minutes of sled pushing and pulling, 2-minute rest, and then assault bike, step back weighted lunges, and seated on the floor wall balls. 10, 10, 10, 20, 20, 20, 30, 30, 30. And then part 2 was 60, 60 at 8% on the incline times 20. So that was like the base, like the cedar workout for what's going to grow after that.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is you're picking out your perceived weaknesses in the high rocks realm.
Yes.
You're putting together circuits in which address those. Wall balls, sleds. Your shoulders go out on the wall balls first, so you did a seated ball throw, really. Some lunges, which get everybody, let's be honest, so those are worth spending your time on. And then you force yourself to run decent turnover on a system that's been used earlier in the day with your 60-60 later in the day. And hybrid training is all about compromise running. It's compromise running at its finest in different variations. And so making that make sense is pretty easy. But it's very nuanced. If somebody can't get through burpee broad jumps without having to rest pause for 30 seconds 10 times throughout, you could have easily snuck those in. Or if somebody is, for whatever inherently, excuse me, weak on the farmer's carry, you could have plugged that in. But it's just, you're what I'm gathering is you're picking the pieces that need the most attention. You're starting to seed that within your system. Probably later this week, you'll pick other station work and move forward that way. But it's a big time commitment. It's a commitment level that a lot of people probably aren't willing to do. That's 2 decently large sessions in one day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly the thought process there. And because I'm not ready for most of this work yet, I had to balance out. Basically, how I look at high rocks is balancing out depth. That's how I look at what rocks you. If you do multiple things at the same level of depth on your legs. So you get running, which you don't get very deep at all with knee bend. Then you get ski erg, which barely gets you down to parallel. And then you get sled push, which doesn't quite get you to parallel, but close. And then you have sled pull, where you get really deep on the pull, but then most of the strain comes with a very minimal knee bend as you go walking backwards. So the front of your quads at the bottom really gets blown out. Then you get rowing, which has a very deep compression.
Yep.
And you have burpee broad jumps, which is very deep. And then farmer's carry. I'm not doing the same order, but farmer's carry has no bend or compression. Walking lunges has very deep, and wall balls has very deep. So I know this isn't rocket science, but just how much are you squatting down and bending over and over and over?
Yep.
The ones that go back to back of the same movement are the ones that crush people. Sled push and pull target a lot of the same area, pushes a little deeper. Lunges into wall balls really crushes people because you're getting deep on both of those on the most tired. So right now, if you notice what I did in those circuits, rowing into sleds, deep compression on one, not on the other. Air bike, very little bend of the knee, into lunges, very deep bend of the knee, into wall balls seated, no bend of the knee. So right now I'm alternating because I'll blow out too quickly and it'll limit my ability to do work. So right now I'm getting doses of the depth, but alternating it so I can get the work in. And then as we get closer to competition day, I'll start stacking them the way you're going to need to stack them on race day.
Frickin' genius. I like it.
Well, on paper. Let's see if it comes together.
You look like a genius if you go out there and nail it anyways. The word wizard gets tossed around being a coach or putting something together, and then somebody has a good race, right? And then it's easy to look back and be like, oh, what a wizard. He worked his magic and came together. Once in a while, an athlete will use that in regards to the programming and putting together a good race. I've had a couple use the word wizard in the last few months to me, and I don't think there's a more complimentary word to use. Wizard. What do you think? What would you like to be called?
Do you know that I have like a visceral reaction to that?
You don't like it. Yeah, I can see it's icky to you.
No, I don't. I don't like it. Because it shows up in a few places of people calling themselves wizards, and I don't like a self-given moniker. So because of, I've seen it places where people call themselves a wizard, which I don't love. But also it way gives too much credit to the role that the coach has.
I can't agree more.
Like there's some magic that comes with it. You're like, poof, we mix this up and go with it. I feel like a coach at best is a really smart restrictor plate.
What happens when it's 2 people in particular, and if you listen, you know who I'm talking about, but what really happens when they say the wizardry has occurred is it follows an overreaching phase of training where it's like, God, I'm 3 weeks out and like I'm just dull, right? Like the volume and intensity is peaked.
Yeah.
I don't feel like super great right now, but I can tell I'm durable. And then you say, just trust. And suddenly on race day, it'll all be back, baby. You just believe in the process, right? Trust me. And then it happens, right? That's our job. It all comes together. They're fit AF and they're available on race day and they go out and just knock it out of the park, which is exactly what our mission is for A races. And then that happens.
Right.
And then it's not wizardry. It's principles and it's biology and it's metabolism and it's processes. Which sounds like a formula and a potion to me. So I'm saying
it does feel magical when
wizardry.
it comes together.
It does feel magical when it comes together.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyways,
I think though there are two places where it does feel like there is some like magic happening that doesn't make sense. Whereas you look at the plan and say A plus B plus C can't possibly equal nailing my race better than just doing a lot of blank would do.
right.
And I think that's hybrid racing and long distance racing, probably marathon and above, but certainly ultras, where there's work you can do that's not race specific that makes you better on the race course.
Yeah.
And that's not what this episode's about. Just kind of an aside that there is some like you can read a 5K plan and just be like, yep, that's a chemical equation. That makes sense.
Yep.
You could read a 400-meter plan. You could read it even to an extent a marathon plan and just get it. Like, yeah, that makes sense. But there are some hybrid plans out there, many of them, and ultra plans out there that would need someone to explain to you why they programmed it for you to say, okay, I can see why that could make sense. But it still takes a lot of trust on a race day that it will come together because those sports have less of a blueprint and more of a, we're going to have to feel this out and do certain things for this one little weakness or strength you have. So if there was ever wizardry, it would occur in those sports that are not clean.
Yeah. Where you can't really make sense of it and then suddenly you step back and you can see the whole picture, but you're so close to it, it doesn't make sense in the moment, right?
Yeah.
It's like blurred vision until you step back. It's race day and you're like, aha, it worked. That's hybrid racing, ultra training. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And hey, our intro says what? We take every rabbit hole, follow the tangents. If we get on a tangent, so be it. But, okay, I want to talk about my 5K coming up in about a week and a half, just real briefly. I'm about to hit my last, what I call true GER session. We're recording on a Tuesday. My race is on a Friday. So how many days is that out? 9 or 10? Does that come
10.
up to 10?
Yeah.
And so
You're asking the wrong guy, but I'm just going to say 10.
And so my formula has been at or under 5K goal pace on my Tuesdays with the workouts I'm picking, and then uphill threshold sessions on Fridays. For example, last week I did 4x4 by 400 meters, averaged right about 67 flat. I went back and did the math, like 67.1 I think I averaged for that session. And then Friday, even though I'm 2 weeks out from a race, I did a 35-minute uphill tempo at 15% with 60-60 finishers. I said, don't forget what got you here, Kirk. You can't just leave it alone. You need to put the right time in threshold. And what I'm finding in my older age, is that I'm responding really nicely to uphill threshold work because I take very little pounding. And then I went out on Saturday and did a 15-mile long run with legs that didn't have too much residual, at least soreness from the session before. And so that's been my formula. And so I'm at my last, what I would call overspeed or speed session today. And I've been waffling over what to do, and I think I landed on it. And I want to know what you think. If you were to be like,
Can I?
Yeah, I was hoping you would. Yeah.
Well, because last time you had me guess your workout and I nailed
You did.
your 4x4x4.
Wizardry,
I did waffle. I
Brakken.
said 3x4x4 or 4x4. Wizardry. However, this one I feel less confident about, but I think that if I followed your thought process, you started thinking about some complex workouts and some different styles that you could do, and should I float or not, or should I stagger reps, and you settled on pure mile repeats.
Well, there is a mile in there. So
That would be my guess, but I'm less confident.
Well, I did pure mile repeats 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so you're gonna buy in, run something fast, and buy out.
Not far off. Yeah, your thought process is actually correct. I'm going to go with a straight up ladder today. I'm not going to cash out, though.
You're gonna ladder it. Okay.
What has happened? Last year, I raced 2 5Ks on the track, and I need to be able to commit to pace early, right, and give myself a chance at breaking 15 minutes. And so I'm going to start with a mile, faster than goal pace. I am hoping to run 4:40 for my first mile. Give myself 3 minutes. So I'm going to call that full recovery as far as our standards go. And then I'm going to try to run 4x800 at the exact same pace-ish. I want to get comfortable running 8 seconds per mile faster than goal pace. And I'm not going to use my favorite shoes. I'm going to save all that for race day. And then I'm going to hit 4x400, and I'm going to try to be a little quicker than race pace, and then I'm going to open with some 2s at the end. So it'll be 4.5 miles of work, which is about the sweet spot for me, 4 plus when I keep the quality. So it'll be a mile, 4x8, 4x4, probably 4x2, which will be 4.5, which is actually a pretty big session with the intensity. And there's a chance I cut the 8s down to 2 of them instead of 4, depending how I'm feeling. But I think I just need to commit. I need to get in a little bit over my head on that first mile, and hopefully it makes 4:48 feel much more comfortable on race day next week. And then, so that is going to be the plan, but everything I want to be faster than goal pace. And I'm worried if I just do mile repeats, it'll be right about or just slower than goal pace. And I don't want that to mess with my psyche as much as, because it's going to be hard regardless, right? 3 by a mile, 4 by a mile at goal pace is going to hurt, and I'm going to question it. And so I think I'm going to live in wonderment until race day. And then I'm really waffling. I know what I'm doing race week because it's my standard lead-in, but my Friday session is what I'm waffling over. I'm not going to do a threshold workout. I'm going to do another VO2 max, maybe 5-minute repeats uphill or something. I can't quite decide, but I'll worry about that later. What do you think?
Okay. Well, I like the idea of going faster than, and I like the idea of not wearing race shoes on this one. You've already proved that you can run the pace and distance of your race in the race shoes, so you don't need that anymore. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be healthy and fine and stable in them. So now it's time to do it without them so that race day feels better. So I do like that a lot. And yeah, that Friday one is, you're kind of in the don't screw it up stage now.
Right.
After you get done with today's, which then becomes, what workout makes me feel like the just absolute man?
That's TBD. Either a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 ladder.
Yeah. What do I love?
5-minute repeats uphill with a 2-minute hike recovery. Something that 5-minute range is a sweet spot, I think, about a week out for me. So probably give or take both sides of that 5-minute range. Yeah. I think Beautiful. I'll keep you guys posted.
Well, we're at the opposite ends of a training block. You've obviously had a long, extended build of fitness that's just held and held and held. And that's like the most valuable thing you can do. You talk about wizardry. There's nothing more magical than just, years now of almost uninterrupted work. That's magical. But now you're at the end where you're thinking, how do I just wring the last few drops out of what I have and arrive feeling fresh and good? Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm on the
build it.
All right, there is a lot of fatigue that I'm staring down the barrel here that's about to pick up. So I'm starting the process. You're finishing it off. That's exciting for me.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I had a 17-mile trail race in April, had a half marathon and a 25K in June. I started with strength running, and then it's whittling it down. I'm keeping roughly the same mileage, actually. I'm upper 40s in 5 runs. But one of those sessions is vert, so it's probably closer to 55 miles a week. And now it's like, not comparing myself to Olympians because let's not kid ourselves, but you follow the strategy and the strategic of like Josh Kerr, and we're going to get to these folks, Cole Hawker. Josh Kerr started his season running a half marathon, went down and ran the 2-mile, and then whittled down to the mile. Cole Hawker spent time running. I think he got the 5K and then the 2-mile and then worked his way down, starting with strength running and then and then whittling it down to speed running is sort of the formula, right? And this wasn't by design on my end. This was like, I chased races that excited me, and it happened to work out that way. But I've never been so focused on over speed training for 5 weeks now, 6 weeks. I mean, I've been in it. Every Tuesday has been like, you're going to rip, Kirk. You're going to get uncomfortable. And at first it was, and now I'm like, running 70s doesn't feel so bad anymore. And so we'll see if it pans out or not, right?
Well, it's going to pan out. It's just whether your fitness happens to align with the arbitrary time goal that your mind wants.
You're right.
And we have a time-based system that has these clean, easy minutes on it. And 1459 goes under one of those minutes. And we have no controlling whether that's what your talent and fitness will lead you to or not, but it makes it for a very clean, easy, this is the goal. So you're going to run well. You're going to do well. It just, is that 1459 well or not? And that's the exciting part of this whole process.
It's so arbitrary, you're right. A stupid minute barrier, like it really means like metabolically, our body doesn't care or know, but for us psychologically, it's like very important. The fast heat did come out for next week, and the fastest seat is 13:47. I don't know who these people are, which is, I mean, that's getting lapped territory if somebody does that. But and then all the way to like 15:30, I think, is the fast heat. It's a pretty big spread, so there's probably going to be plenty. Just get in line, hopefully, right? Get in line, hang on.
Yeah.
Do your thing. But
it should give you the ability to work up.
I'd hope so.
Which would be nice.
Yeah.
Pick someone off every lap, starting with lap 2 or 3.
Yeah. We'll see. I think a problem I've had in the future and then let's get to the Olympics, but problem I have had in the future in some of the longer races, especially OCR for years, is I was actually a little conservative early, and I wouldn't commit quite to the front.
The problem you've had in the future. This is wizardry.
Oh, did I say future? I meant past.
I wanted to know where you were going with this.
I was going nowhere but backwards, apparently. Problem I've had in the past, and I've had my coffee too. I don't know. I'm not awake yet. Is yes, I haven't committed early. And then in these 5Ks, I mean, how often do I positive split races? I mean, never, rarely workouts. And then last summer, I positive split both. Even while positive splitting the 5Ks, I did work my way up in the field through those positive splits. So I felt like this false sense of like security with my effort. But I need to commit. I don't think I can go out slower than goal pace and then make it up in the last mile in a race like this. I think I need to peg it or give myself a buffer if I'm going to do it. Thoughts on that, and then let's get to the Olympics.
Now you have this one big positive in your corner, this chip you get to cash in, which is that we were in a heat bloom last year, a historic heat bloom, and you ran at like 91 degrees one day and like 96 the other, or whatever crazy thing it was.
It was hot.
Outside of something crazy happening, it's not going to be like that. Our heat broke last week. As I'm staring at my computer screen right now, I'm going to double check on my phone. It's 73 degrees. Last year at this time, it would have already been 93 degrees. And that is a world of difference in a 5K. So you may still be in the 80s by the time you run, but you won't be in the 90s. And that is a key component to whether you're positive splitting or even splitting.
Thank you. I got to remind myself of that because I almost like don't use that as part of the equation. It was 89 and 91 the 2 days after 10 p.m. Right now, the projected high on Wednesday next week is 72 is the projected high. That's
and
2 days before Friday.
In addition to that,
as far as I can see,
to get down to 91, they delayed your race by what, an hour or two?
I think they delayed starting the heats because the slowest in quotes folks start early at like 5 p.m. and it was literally 102 degrees.
Right.
So I think they delayed the first heat, and then it bled backwards.
So you were running at 10 p.m., which is way past your bedtime there's just a lot going on. And you remember, like we all do, that like, again, that use that word again, visceral, that like deep in your gut feeling of how bad the 5K was and how early it was bad. But there are some factors to why it felt that way that won't be there this year. So it's still going to hurt, but it's going to be a different type of bad. And if you get 70s, you're going to feel like a little kid out there.
I hope you're right. Yeah. And
Well, here's one thing, Kirk. One little last attaboy or you'll be fine kind of thing. When I was trying to break 16 for the first time, I ran 16 flat, 1602 and 16 flat in 1 month. Because again, the time meant nothing to my body. I was just running the best I could run. And one was on a cross country course, one was solo on a track, and one was in a road race. And I just, like, it was there. And it wasn't. It was 16 flat, point like 7 on the cross country course at our alumni high school cross country meet. Mm-hmm. John DeWindt paced me the entire way, and I fell off a little bit with like 1,400 to go. And I couldn't kick it down to sub 16, just watching the clock as I'm running in. Like,
but on
58,
grass.
59, oh no. On grass, slightly uphill finish at McCarty. Anyway, ran that same time roughly 3 times, then ran 15:42. And so you ran 15 teens.
15, 17.
Like 15 teens-ish. Yeah. And then it's just going to drop. And whether that's this time or next time, I don't know. But I always tell people I work with, always. And now I'm telling people at the track this when they get frustrated that, like, I'm running 57 blank every lap in this go-kart, every time. And I always say, good. Because if you can repeat something, it's not your best. If you can do something more than once, it's not your career potential because you can't max your potential more than once as an athlete. Maybe you could on like separate months or years, but not in the same race, not in the same week, not in the same month. So if you can do something more than once, you can do better. And you've done that already. You've done something more than once in bad conditions. So you're going to have a race you pop eventually. So why not this one?
Yeah, the only issue with that is they're a year apart. And so it's not like this has been consecutive racing. Like, It's very difficult to nail a 5K if you haven't raced one in, I hate to say it, a year, right? Like,
Correct.
there's that factor too, but fitness is also fitness. And you're right. If you can repeat something, that is your baseline, right? And there's going to be subject studies on both sides of that baseline. It means the positive one, when you're better than baseline, should be the one that ends up being your PR. And we saw that the women's 1500 is a shining example of that with both Jessica Hull and Nikki Hiltz. Nikki Hiltz basically hovering around 4 minutes flat and then pops 3:55, 5 seconds faster than roughly her PR, and then runs 3:56 in the finals. Got herself to a new level and stayed there. Jessica Hull's PR was like 3:55 or 3:56, pops a 3:50, then goes on to run 3:51 or 52 in the finals to be second. The silver medal at the Olympics. And there are 2 examples in the 1500 where they ran baseline all year and then popped and then stayed, right? Again, you see it from time to time, right? So you make a good point there. Let's use that as a segue to maybe for a half an hour chat about the Olympics. We went off on one on Friday's episode last week, and we spent over 2 hours talking about the Olympics. I had a good time with that chat, talking about what had happened, our predictions for the future races that hadn't happened yet, and now it's all wrapped up. What we have had since our last chat on Friday was we had the men's 800. We're going to talk distance events here. The men's 800-meter final. We had the women's 1,500-meter final. We had the women's 10K final. We had the men and women's marathon. What am I missing?
And the men's 5,000.
Oh, and the men's 5,000. Yes, and the men's 5,000. Why don't you kick us off, brother?
Now, before we get rolling, I want to give a little insight to somehow how these topics come up. So when we finish recording, oftentimes we're like, all right, next week we should probably hit blank. And then oftentimes we show up to record and Kirk's like, you have any special ideas for today? And that usually means I have something I could talk about. And so if I don't have anything good, he's got one. Well, I'm like, yeah, I think we just did the strength episode. I really want to talk ultra strength training, like all the ways to get yourself bulletproof for an ultra, not just strength training, but like get yourself structurally ready for that. He's like, yeah, I think we really need to do that. But I really want to talk Olympics for a little bit today. So can we at least start with that? Like, yeah. He's like, and maybe we can get some time out of that and then we'll go to the ultra. And so it was right before we pressed record. He just kind of slipped that in there. Can we start with the Olympics? And then we went 2 hours and 10 minutes fanboying, nerding out over the Olympics. And now here is a Training Tuesday that follows up on that. So when we say that we follow rabbit holes, this is like the prime example of that. But we just like running that much.
Right. And the Olympics happen once every, how many years, Brakken? 4, right? I guess it was 3.
Other than COVID year,
3 years,
every 4 years.
3 years between this and the last cycle, yada, yada. And so it happens once every 4 years. The state of U.S. distance running is in a very good place. And I think it's worth spending another half an hour wrapping up the Olympics, our thoughts, before we go back to teachable tangibles moving forward. So why don't you kick us off with the events?
Let's go back to what you had us do predictions at the end. My prediction was all bets are off for the 1,500 females, except I think someone would go out too hard, and I thought Nikki was going to close and clean up the carnage. The 5K I said was going to be a massacre, I think was the word I used. Whenever he decided it was time, Jakob was going to crush everyone. And I think we both predicted Grant Fisher to sneak up into the medals after being there all race. Women's 10K, I don't remember our exact prediction.
We didn't really talk about who would win.
It was going to be
focused on what Valby would maybe do, and is anybody going to hang and surprise us, how the race would play out. But I don't know how well our predictions were there.
Yeah. We talked that the marathon could go very poorly for the legends, and that the course itself was going to be harder than about half the field anticipated it being, but that our men were set up to do well and our women might or might not be able to hang up in there. But that I wasn't super optimistic about the U.S. side, chances on the women's side. And then what else are we missing here? Men's 8. We both thought Bryce Hoppel would medal, but that it could be really fast.
Yeah, that's how, and I think we actually, an attaboy, pat us on the back. Other than the women's 1,500, I think we were about spot on, and I don't think we can blame ourselves for a 141 performance not ending up on the podium in the 800, with Bryce Hoppel being left off as the fastest 800-meter final in history. Second and third fastest times ever run, I believe. It was an unbelievable race. We predicted it to be fast. I didn't think 4 would be that fast. There was a clear separator from like first through fourth and then fifth in the rest of the field. Unbelievable. I guess we can start with that. I mean, Bryce Hoppel runs 141 high and takes 4th place. That would win the Olympics 9 out of 10 years, other than the Rhodesia world record year.
Yeah, there's 2 types of fast races. There's the David Rhodesia year. This is when the world record was set. What is it, 140.99?
140.90, I think. 90 or 91. But either way, he ran it at 90? The Olympic Games, yeah.
Yeah.
2012.
140.9, and from the gun was gone, and everyone's just strung out behind him, and everyone realizes this is fast. People, the best in the world, are just struggling to stay in single file line, hold on to the person ahead of you, get pulled to a fast time. And then there's the kind of fast race that you can't tell they're running fast because there's a pack of people fighting and no one really looks good because they're all running so incredibly fast, but you don't know it because you don't see people in a pack running fast usually.
Right.
Usually they're stretched out. Like the easiest way to tell how fast a race is going out is, are they in a group or are they single file? And this was a group. And Bryce Hoppel didn't look good. He looked like he was really struggling with like 180 to go to even keep with the pace. I'm like, man, did he time this wrong? What's going on? And then you find out, no, he was running historically fast. But you never see a group in the 800 packed up and everyone runs fast. We ran the 800 in college. That was my primary event. And I can't think of a single race where I watched people pack run PRs.
Never.
It shouldn't be possible. And they did that in this race.
Yeah, it was incredible. I think they came through in 50 low, or 49 high.
50 point like two. And then came back in 50 point again.
Correct, which is wild. And you think of the time loss with the jostling, because there was jostling for literally 700 meters back and forth. And you think, like, if it was pure time trial and somebody could go up front and run. What I do respect is the Frenchman in his home crowd got a huge cheer. Got in on time to the final. He didn't even finish in the top 2 in his heats. And then goes out and makes the race. I mean, really, he runs in front for 550, 600 meters when he wasn't really supposed to be there. And, of course, he got swallowed up and finished, 6th or 7th. But Frenchman made it honest when he wasn't a favorite. The hunters hunted, but they got dragged around to a good, fast race. It was committed too early, and it was tough. I don't think Hoppel can be disappointed. He runs a lifetime PR by like almost a second and takes 4th in the fastest 800-meter final in history. Like, what more can you ask of your body other than to go home with a bronze medal that's going to deteriorate in the next week anyways? Can't. You saw all that, right?
And there were several. Yeah, the medals were not holding up well.
The bronze is corroding and within a week, and people were posting about it. Yeah,
the disappearing medal. There were a couple quotes from athletes. Bryce Hoppel had a quote. He said, "I've been training, the way I've been training, especially at altitude, I'm only going to get faster each round. I'm going to be so ready for the final, and honestly, anything less than a gold will be a disappointment." And then you had Sajadi, who has run the second fastest time in history, I believe, or third, and has looked unbeatable recently with a crazy kick. And he had a quote like, "Yeah, I'm here to win." And Ara from Canada had some sort of quote like, "I'm here to prove that my world championship win was not a fluke. I'm in the shape of my life. I'm ready to go out and win this final." A bunch of people all said they're ready to go out and win the final. And what the final proved is they were all right.
Yeah.
Every single one of them ran a time that would win almost every Olympics ever. And they ran it in a pack through contact. No one ran a clean race. In fact, what's his name? Is it Toul or whatever? The Frenchman? Toul. He probably ran the cleanest race because he got to the front and just led. Everyone else had to break stride once or twice and accelerate. Like Hoppel had an acceleration from like 380 to 400 just to avoid being pushed wide. Everyone had something like that, and they still all ran 141. Like Sajadi took 3rd place and got bumped down to 5th fastest all time.
Yeah.
It's just like the race was so crazy. They were all proved right. They all were fit. They all timed their peak correctly. And they were all correct that, they were all gold medalist worthy. Yeah. And they just all wound up in a special race at the same time.
Yeah, and I think the person who should be least disappointed in the whole group, other than the gold medal winner, is Hoppel. I mean, A-Rop comes off a world champ, and he follows it up with a 2nd. Sajadi should have been the favorite, takes 3rd. Hoppel, yes, his standard was gold, but he ran a further deviation away from his PR than anybody else in that final, meaning he improved on his best time ever more than anybody else in front of him. And so I think, like, when he goes home, he's got to be satisfied with the effort he put forward, because he progressed so exponentially compared to the guys who they've all run roughly the same time already this year. Hoppel hadn't. And so I just think it's he's going to get a pat on the back for it, and that's about it. But I think it's a very satisfying pat on the back, and we can't be disappointed in his performance, nor can he.
Yeah, the position's going to eat at him. But that's the kind of race where you look at it and say, what else could I have done? Was it 7/10 he improved by?
Almost a second, yeah.
This man's been a pro for what, 7 years? Or something like, maybe not 7, but he's been a pro for years. What you don't improve by 3/4 of a second to a second in a minute 40-some second race when you've already been a pro for years. What else do you do? I don't know. I think everyone just, if you run that race 10 times, everyone takes a different position most of those simulations, but it's still all like the same pack of people. It's just that's how the race went. There's nothing more people could have got out of themselves that day.
Yeah, and then we all gloss...
Crazy race. I've never seen an Olympic final like that.
And then we all gloss over the fact that all of these fast times earlier in the year have been run on, let's call it trained, but relatively fresh race legs. And then you get to the Olympics and everything the 5,000 meter and down comes with rounds. I mean, the Olympic 800 meter final is the third time these guys have run an 800 in like 5 days. Or 4 days or something like that. And so you're seeing the Olympic final on guys that have run 3 times. And some, the repechage, I don't even know if they had that. It could be your 4th race. And here you are in the final. So you're on a system that's been worked, whereas in like a Diamond League meet, there's 2 rounds. You run the 1,500 or the 5K, there's no rounds in the Diamond League meets. You show up and just rip on fresh legs and give it an honest go. And so the fact that some of these people have run as fast as they did and brought it together like they did on the Olympic final, like actually becomes even a bigger feat than you realize. Not that it's easy to run fast, it never is, but a Diamond League meet in which is strategically placed throughout the year without a bunch of rounds preceding the final is very different than making the Olympic final your 3rd round in 3 or 4 or 5 days, right? And so it's just makes it more impressive is what I'm outlining in a long-winded way.
It's the difference between pros and really fast runners. Like there's a difference there. Like not just professional runners versus collegians, but like the true pros versus the regular pros. I used this example last time, but I'm glad you brought this all up again. That if your coach told you we're time trialing Saturday and we need to PR, and we're going to time trial Tuesday, Thursday as well. You'd look at him like he's insane. You'd say, why would you have me do this? But that's what's happening at these meets. We're going to time trial Tuesday, like 90%, time trial Friday or Thursday, 95%. And now we're going to time trial Saturday, 100%. But it might take 100% effort in one of those two. I can't guarantee anything.
Right.
That's not the way you run your fastest time. And so I don't want to say anyone, but anyone who's talented and is a pro can pop a race at a Diamond League meet or in a fresh, sterile environment with wave light and pacers and all that. But you kind of have to pop 2 races unless you're the best in the world to get to the final.
Yeah.
And then you have to pop it. That PR is worth something special. So yes, you'll never match. I think this Olympic Stadium was the most electric stadium I've ever seen, other than when Usain Bolt was running the 100, 200 in Beijing. That was Beijing, right? The Bird's Nest Stadium.
I don't know. Sure. Yeah, it was. I think it was.
But other than the camera pops and noise of that stadium for those 2 events, I've never heard an Olympic Games where every single race was deafening and electric and just like popping with energy.
Yeah.
So yes, this was a special track with special energy, but all that does is at best cancel out the fact that you just ran multiple races in the week. So these PRs are extra special.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a case like in these finals, and this is going to be a segue to the next event, the women's 1500. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer as the rounds go on. And because you had to run the race of your life to even make the final, whereas the most fit person in the field has to run at 90% to make the final, you'll see a final in which the field gets strung way the heck out. And you're like, how are these the best? There was a 10-second gap in the 1500 on the women's side, which is maybe doesn't sound like a lot to you guys. It's astronomical. It was 351 to 401 was the spread between the winner and the last place person. And it was because you have people like Morgan Mackay who she ugly ran the last 50 meters of her semifinals to make the finals. And then she gets into the finals. She's already smoked. She's burned all her matches to get there. And she falls off the back and is in no man's land 2 laps into the race. And you say, well, she laid an egg. Like, no, she didn't. She went into the race with a system that was done when the gun went off, because that's what it took for her to get there. Yeah. And so we often forget about that as well. And that was the case in the women's 1500. I think it slightly was the case with Nikki Hiltz and Ellie St. Pierre. Jess made a note. She's like, you always say Ellie Purrier St. Pierre, and it's just Ellie St. Pierre. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's Purrier St. Pierre. And then I looked, and I think she must have dropped the Purrier. I don't know, because now she's just Ellie St. Pierre, unless the announcers made it shorter for ease of use.
I think at trials she was still Purrier.
Anyways, I got corrected by my wife on that, I guess. So Ellie St. Pierre and both of them, Nikki Hiltz, had to expend just a little more to get there. I think the biggest disappointment for the U.S. is Ellie, unfortunately, in my opinion. I didn't think Nikki had the top-end potential to podium. I really didn't. I wanted her to, or them to, but it didn't happen, right? She she couldn't stay in contact. She kicked home, had a great finish. I thought maybe Ellie was possibly going to pull something out because she went all in on the 1500, and that didn't happen.
No, and I think that she's a victim of two things. One, she is a victim of maybe the most perplexing Olympic Games I've ever watched an athlete do with Sagai. Sagai of Ethiopia had one of the most confusing strategies across 3 events that I've ever watched a world champion runner have.
I agree.
And
Explain
she
that.
went out in...
And no, it's
okay,
interesting.
so this is a woman who has flirted with the world record.
By the way, what also is interesting about her is Sagai notably underperformed and sort of became unlikable in the process. Like just facial expressions and the way
weird.
It was weird. Like her validity went way down when she could have won all 3. Just interesting. Continue.
So she was in the 5K, the 10K, and the 1500, which is already a huge ask of an athlete. Very few people on the planet Earth can do that competitively in any meet, let alone the Olympic Games against the best of the best and with multiple rounds. But she started out in the 5K and ran up at the front a lot of the time and then got caught up in jostling with Faith Kipyegon. And there was that whole thing, someone's going to be DQ'd or not, but there's like shoving. And then instantly when it happened, she got this look of like outrage on her face. Mm-hmm. Like she had been offended and wronged so much and couldn't get over it. And then immediately got dropped in the race. Mm-hmm. Like people in races, you see it with Ellie St. Pierre a lot. She'll get involved in some jostling and then just like makes an aggressive move and gets right back to business. Sagai, it got to her, which is weird to see from a world champion. And I don't know if she's been a world record holder or just been close, but either way, she's flirted with the world record and has been a world champ. And it's weird to see that and made a ton of facial expressions.
Yeah.
Like we know as runners, if you're racing, you can't make facial expressions. You can't afford the energy to even contort your face, let alone the mental state it gets you into to break out of race mode. It was very odd. Then comes back in the 15 and goes out in what? 59 seconds, the first 400 meters?
59. They came through in like 2 flat, 2:01.
59 seconds.
2:01.
Yeah, then the 2:01 or something through the 800, which would be extreme world record pace. Like not even close. Through a 59 second, even if it's 59.9, is a 3:59 mile, which the fastest a woman has ever run 1500 compared is like 4:07. So she went out 8 seconds ahead of the world record in the Olympic final.
And had company as well, by the way.
And everyone just went with her. And that's what cost Ellie, right? Ellie had the Grant Fisher approach, which was, I'm going to run in medal contention no matter what happens because I have the strength to do it. But what happened was someone put a rocket booster behind themselves and just ran an 800-meter time trial and then cratered. And Ellie was left there like, what have you done to me? By the time she realized what the pace was, it was too late. You cannot collect from that. And then you just have to bite down and say, well, hopefully everyone else breaks before I do. And so her day was done. But she went in with, people were saying she was a terrible racer online. Terrible strategy. I think she went in so locked into the correct strategy. And she just got kind of betrayed by an absolutely asinine pace by someone who should know better.
Yeah, Sagai ran with anger throughout the entire Olympic Games. Anger. And I believe
emotionally.
Emotions have no place in distance running. And I hate to say that. You want to run with anger? Sure. 400 meters and down, go run pissed. Fine. For 800 meters and up, there's a level of relaxation that is required to run your best, and anger has not involved. And that's what happened, I believe. We're sitting here on the couch, explaining this, and we really have no idea, but that's what it appeared to be. And by the way, Segay, who went out in 59 and then 201 to lead the field, finished dead last, in case it matters. She finished in 401.
Yes.
And you're exactly right. And then you look behind, and you have Nikki Hiltz, who still asserted herself, but was a few meters off the lead pack, looking out of it. And then you have the smartest racer in the field, other than Kipyegon and Hull, who knew they could handle the pace, Laura Muir. Laura Muir's 15 meters off the lead, halfway into the race, looking like
like Dave Waddle back there.
What a joke, right? Like this, she was the Olympic silver or bronze medalist in the last Olympics, and she's in 10th place, 15 meters off the back of the field. And what does Laura Muir do? Well, in hindsight, Ellie St. Pierre should have shadowed Laura Muir, outkicked her, and ended up with a medal. But that didn't happen. Laura Muir worked her way through the field, ran her own race, said, nope, I'm not going to commit to this. It can't last. And then Laura Muir from Great Britain ends up, I don't know, did she end up medaling, or was she like fourth? She worked her way up well. Maybe
No, she medaled.
Yeah, bronze, right?
She took second.
Second, right.
And then I thought she took second. Bell took third.
We talk about the 1500, Cole Hawker's gold medal, coming back, kicking home, being amazing. We talk about Kenneth Rooks in the 3K steeplechase, kicking home, making a huge move, taking second, and it's so glorious. Well, we're U.S.-centric. We're biased, right? If you were a Great Britain athlete, this may be one of the greatest finishes of all time for a 1,500-meter runner, the way it was run, the way it looked like she was out, and then just said, nope, I know my body, I know my effort, and just make everybody else look like idiots, if I'm being honest. And she took third, no, because Jessica Hull was second. Kipyegon was first. If anything, Laura Muir was third.
Bell was fourth.
Anyways, if you were a Great Britain-centric fan, that was one of the best executed races. Yes, it landed her in third, but she wasn't the second or first best in the field at her best. The best case scenario for Laura Muir was third place, and she took that and did her thing. Unless she was
going on here?
Or was she not third?
What? This is now confusing to me.
Maybe we're talking on our ass. Anyways, I think Laura Muir ran the best executed race.
Okay, so I just want to show you this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. On the home screen, can you read that? Mm-hmm. Kipyegon, Hull, Bell, Hiltz, 1, 2, 3, 4. Home screen of Google.
That's not true.
Scroll down, same thing. Kipyegon, Hull, Bell, Hiltz. That's not the correct answer. That's from the Olympics result on Google. Comes from their own website. The actual result, oh my goodness. That's not the result, right?
No, Hiltz was 6th? 5th? Something?
What in the world? This is saying it too. This is saying Kipyegon, Hull, Bell.
Could have been. But I don't even care what the result is. If we can't, somebody will correct us.
How do I not know?
Somebody always corrects us and calls us idiots, and that's fine. I still think her race was well executed. And I wanted to focus on Laura Muir because she was the only one who didn't go with it right out of the gates, knowingly sticking to her own plan. And maybe she didn't end up on the podium, but neither did the Americans.
She was 5th.
All right. Well, we would just cut that whole previous part out. Let's move on. So, anyways, Hiltz kicks home and
Either
runs
way, she was 20 meters down lap 1.
Yeah. Hiltz kicks home, runs like 3:56. I think runs about where I predicted her to be. Ellie St. Pierre fades. She committed to the hot pace early and then fell off the back. And when when the piano landed on Ellie's back, it landed pretty hard. She was going backwards. And I can't say I don't admire the way she raced. I can call her race a disappointment because it was. But I admire her commitment to the pace and asserting herself. And for that, I respect her. And so, I can be disappointed and respect somebody's strategy at the same time. And that's exactly what the fact is. I know you're still combing through the results there. Yes?
Here's the real result. Faith Kipyegon first, Jessica Hull second, Georgia Bell closed to third. Well, Teji from Ethiopia was 4th and Laura Mir 5th. Nikki was 7th. So I don't know what Google's trying to do.
I don't know what my mind's trying to do because I made up pretty much the fact she landed on the podium. All right, so for the sake of time, Brakken, okay, we're going to have to force ourselves to do this. I got a hot date.
We have to go to the 5K.
I got a hot date with the track, and I don't want the heat to creep up too much. So let's give ourselves like 5-10 minutes, and let's see if we can do the 5K and the marathon's justice in 5 to 10 minutes. Is that fair?
Yeah. So I'm going to gloss over the women's 10K then and just say that Sagai repeated her tactics and went out hot in the 10K and cracked again.
And I would say that our prediction the Americans ran, oh my God, Schweitzer, Wayne Kaladi, and Parker Valby all committed to the front pack, all ended up in the 12-person breakaway. Frickin' Parker Valby leads the Olympic final with like 1,200 meters to go for who knows what reason. And then she gets left in the dust like she forgot how to run because the pace and the elite and the cream rose to the top, and Parker Valby was the first off the back. Schweitzer's assertion impressed me, running up in the top 5 part of the race. And then Wayne Kaladi, of everybody, I mean, the most diminutive figure in the field, just kept grit running, hanging on. One person fell off as the pace picked up the last mile, wasn't Kaladi. Then it gets down, and it's down to like 8 athletes, and Wayne Kaladi is still in it, just frickin' grinding. The respect of her, she's 4 inches shorter than the next shortest person in the field. Her turnover is twice as quick as Parker Valby's. She looks like she's sprinting from mile 1. Talk about respect. And that young, diminutive figure, Kaladi, was a steepler in college. She ran the frickin' steeplechase at like 5'2", which doesn't even make sense as well. Anyways, a lot of respect for the way she raced. The whole U.S. squad ran as well as they could have in the 10K on the women's side, and I was very impressed with all 3 of them. Schweitzer coming off the 5K, Wayne Kaladi sticking her nose in there, and Parker Valby running exactly how we thought she would. Commit to it and fall off when the kicking started. That's what happened. Is that a good summary?
And they finished, what, 9-10 or 8-9 or something like that? I think 9-10.
12 or something.
And
Valby was.
Top 10, maybe it was 10-11. They finished right next to each other. But to be top 10 at the Olympics is fantastic. But to do it in I'm running for a medal until I crack and still finish up top 10 is a pretty cool way of doing it.
Yeah.
So it was awesome to watch. Again, Sagai went out, played surges, leads, fell off, ended up with 0 medals in an Olympics where she could have won almost any event she chose. Yeah, she ran against Kip Yagan, who is a generational talent, but weird Olympics from her. I've never seen anything like it.
And Safan Hassan, as we'll get to, 5K, set herself up to medal in 3 events. She took a bronze. So we'll just say that's going to be a story we'll touch on briefly in a couple minutes. But go ahead, 5K. This is all you. Yes.
Men's 5K, we predicted it, but it wasn't hard to do. You take a person that has already run 12:48 in a 5K and has a 3:26 1500 and seems to have unlimited speed at the end of a 5K, and they dawdled. They decided not to go for it, and it was over before it even started. I don't want to toot my horn too much, but massacre is kind of what it was over the last lap. That was an accurate prediction.
Yeah, it was.
Was he all out?
No, that's the thing. He was the only one who looked like he was still relaxed. I had a conversation with, let's call him my stepfather. My mom was visiting this weekend, and her boyfriend of 25 years, doesn't matter. He's been around forever. Was watching the Olympics, and he's like, yeah, and that frickin' cocky Norwegian, what is his name? Kerr. And I was like, no, the Norwegian's Ingebrigtsen. But I was impressed he knew the names because he's not a runner. And he's like, yeah, and then, the cocky guy came back and he ended up winning the 5K after getting what he deserved in the 1500 because he's arrogant. And I was like, well, Steve, I feel like you're looking at this the wrong way, Steve. Steve doesn't listen. Anyways, it was like, I respect the way Jakob ran his 1500 meter. I appreciate his, let's call it confidence. And I found myself rooting for him more than anybody else. I found myself rooting for Jakob equally to the Americans, being like, I kind of want your redemption story to come through. Did you find any of that for yourself or no?
Yeah. And it's funny because we watched everything as a family. The kids are into it, and Braden does not like Jakob because he's the anti-Braden. Braden would never toot his own horn. He would never make a statement about his own confidence. So he's like, I don't like the way he does it. And Ayla loves it. So it's funny to watch them play their favorites.
I think Jakob is a ladies' man because
I just respect the grind he puts in.
Jess, my wife, loves Jakob. She's a Jakob fan through. She likes the way he talks and goes about his business. So maybe he's a ladies' man.
My daughters don't like Kerr's beard.
It's enough for me. Continue. Sorry.
But he just he's just levels above when the races get longer. And I stick by my assertion that he could win the 5K, 10K. If and when he ever wants to move up, he could do that. Because he was not pushed.
150 point for his last 800 meters in a 5K. 150 point. And even the fact...
It's gross.
Grant Fisher...
And that started with, 600 to go.
Yeah, it did. It didn't even start until 600 to go. Yeah.
No. Really, 500 to go, a crazy surge happened. He ran a 150 running regular 5K. I mean, they ran fast their last mile, but he ran a regular fast 5K pace for 300 of those 800 meters.
Unbelievable. It'll be curious to see what he does. I mean, at this point, with his kick being on display, I know he's not considered a kicker in the 1500, but I'd really like to see him not lead in his next world 1500. I'd really like to see him now at this point, now we sit, right? And we see what happens. But that's for a future conversation. Grant Fisher is sitting in, hangs on, pace picks up. He gets back to like 6th, 7th. With 200 meters to go, Grant Fisher's in like 6th or 7th, thought he was done. And he musters up. And I mean, if the field is stretched to the max all the way to third place with 10 meters before the finish line, he ends up with his second bronze at the Olympics. Grant Fisher's got a kick, dude. Dude's got a kick. You remember the days 4 years ago when...
And he had staying power kick.
Yeah. You know the days 4 years ago, Woody Kincaid was blowing by Grant Fisher. Now Grant Fisher can kick with anybody other than Jakob, apparently, which is dang impressive.
And he doesn't have a gear, change that he can just snap into a kick, and I think it saved him. Because everyone with surplus gears shifted into all out with 550 to go and instantly gapped him and everyone else, and they all came up just a little short. The fact I don't know if he was smart or didn't have the choice.
Looked like he didn't have the choice.
But he just kept running his best. And then he caught them at the very end because they went for it, and he didn't have the choice to go for it. But I wrote him off, and then suddenly with 80 to go, he's moving. He's still moving. It was really cool to watch.
Graham Blanks takes 10th or something. The cross-country champ from Harvard.
Yeah.
For the U.S. And this is going to sound bad. I really wish Parker Wolf was in the race because I think he had another gear of kick that Graham Blanks didn't. And not saying Parker Wolf would have done anything, but I think Parker Wolf would have had potential to be maybe even in contention in that race in the home stretch, at least to be, looked at. Parker Wolf took 3rd at the U.S. Olympic trials, but had not run the standard. So they bumped Graham Blanks from 4th up into 3rd, or the last U.S. qualifying spot. And I kind of wished... Do you hear that?
No.
Oh, somebody's chainsawing or weed whacking right out my window. These microphones really are good. Anyways, would have been nice to see Parker Wolf. Maybe just see what he would have done. I root for the guy, but that's water under the bridge. Anything else at the 5K?
Just how far the sports come. You remember the famous Prefontaine 5K in Munich where they're like, he's gonna attempt to run sub 4 in the last mile, and anyone who can go with him. Now you've got to run sub 4 to be on that tail end of the lead pack at the end, and then you've got to be able to close in 53. Again, just the sport has come to a place where the icons of the sport, what they used to do, is now just commonplace.
Yeah.
And it's wild to see how fast they run. They just ran a 59 lap. You're like, that didn't look like a 59, and that's with 3 to go. Yep, they're going to run like 4:55 or 4:54 here this last mile. This is crazy.
Just try not to compare yourself to them, because I find myself doing that. And then I'm like, I finished with a 64-second quarter last week in my 4x4 by 400 meters, 64 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about how much effort that was and how difficult that was. And then to know Jakob's running 55s at the end of his 5K for 2 laps in a row, it's like, oh my God, the levels. Yeah. All right, marathon. We got to do this thing. What are your thoughts? I only watched the quick recaps. I have not watched them in their entireties. So this is all you.
Okay. I really enjoyed the women's race. Really enjoyed it. I did not enjoy the men's race.
Okay. Tell me more.
It was just hard to watch people you've grown up. My entire running life, Bekele and Kipchoge have been at a world level. And to see them both really struggle and just look bad, to look old, it hurt me. Like, it was personal to me somehow. Like, the people I idolize look old. You're definitely old. And it was hard to see how quickly it happens. So it wasn't enjoyable to me. It wasn't a swan song. It wasn't like a glorious send off. It was just rough to see. So I didn't even enjoy the men's marathon, but the women's was a race to watch. Sprint finish for Olympic medals at the end of 26.2 grueling miles. You can't ask for anything better than that.
The men's race, it's like, Brett Favre goes and decides to play for the Vikings to finish out, and the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, and when you should have just pulled the plug, left on top. And it's always hindsight, and you always want more. Part of me, it's hard not to put that on myself a little bit, and you too, like being like, are we chasing silly things? Like, is this like a losing battle at some point? Tough. I agree. Tough to watch, but we did have Americans in both race up front. Well into the marathon, both Dakota Lindworm, who literally, I'm going to go run on her track right now. She literally, I don't know, mile and a half away, grew up from where I live and ran the same track I'm about to go rip on, which makes me feel a little cool. Anyway, she led for a bit out of nowhere, and Connor Mance was right up front for a portion of the marathon, put himself into the race. As an American, when's the last time we saw an American in the true front of an Olympic marathon? Can you recall? I can't. So that
Probably
was nice.
Athens.
Who was in front at Athens? Rupp?
No, our women had a great day. I think we even medaled in Athens.
Okay, you'd know better than I would. But it's been a while since we've seen an American at the front of an Olympic marathon.
Yeah, and it was. Did you see when Clayton and? You didn't watch the whole race.
I
when
saw
the Monster Hill started.
I saw the low 5.
Okay, yeah, the Monster Hill started, and they just looked at each other and high-fived each other and got to work. It was kind of cool. They were the people that prepared for that. And 2 guys in the top 10. Fantastic.
How do you not root for those 2? They're so likable. It's disgusting.
Yeah. They're just like wholesome runners.
Oh, they're great.
Wholesome mid-American runners.
All right, and then the women's.
Okay, so in Athens, Meb Kefleski took second.
Meb. That's right.
And on the women's side, what in the world? Didn't want to show me the women's.
We had a
Dina Castor.
Dina Castor. Des Linden had some top 10 performances, I think, right?
Yeah, but Athens, we had a male and a female make the podium, which is kind of unprecedented for us.
What year was Athens?
2004.
Long
that was the
ago.
hot year, like 90s. We were the ones that didn't warm up much, started the trend of cooling vest, just nailed the heat preparation.
It was like 20 years ago, yeah. All right. Women's. Talk about the women's quick, and then let's wrap.
Safan Hassan completed arguably the most impressive overall Olympics we've ever seen, running the 1500 bronze, 10K bronze, marathon gold. And You could understand if someone went 5K, 10K marathon, if the rules of recovery didn't apply, just like the engine that it would take. If she was already a world record holder at one point on the track and has won Olympic gold in every event that she's ever tried, not all in the same Olympics, but she's won however many golds. So she has the speed. She's run a 2:13 marathon, I want to say. And so you could see that, yeah, she could hang on and take bronze in all three if she timed her training right and recovered well. But you're going to lose your top end in something. If you're good enough at the marathon, you're not going to place in the 1500. And if you're good enough in the 1500, you're not going to be able to hang through the marathon. And she kicked into the 1500 bronze position, kicked into the 10K bronze position, and then kicked away and won the marathon. Mm-hmm. Just a mind-blowing display of pretty much all running attributes: speed, endurance, toughness, grit, tactics. Just unreal.
Part of me wonders, though, I believe she raced conservatively in the 5K and 10K. She held back, stayed back a little too long. I wonder if the marathon wasn't hanging over her head, if she would have had a silver or a gold in the previous events. It just looked like she raced like she knew she had the marathon at the end of all this. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was she wouldn't commit to too hot of a pace or if the marathon had sapped her absolute top sustainable pace and she just couldn't hang on, but then found herself able to close due to strength at the end. I don't know which one it was, but the marathon cost her some time in the first two events for sure. Because who should be able to run a good 1500 and marathon at the same time? The answer is no one. Mm-hmm. No one should be able to run in the Olympic 1500 final, let alone medal in it while winning the marathon.
Yeah, all speculation, I suppose, but just I guess we can wonder. The bump at the end, the whole shoulder nudge as she went to pass was awesome. The comments were like, she should be DQ'd and these women are terrible and this is not acceptable. And I was like, that is racing. I mean, Safana-san got cut off. Basically, like, she tries to close in track, you try to close down the inside rail on the final curve, right? And that's acceptable. In the marathon, who took second? What was her name again? It's slipping my mind. Anyways,
I'm blanking right now.
Safana-san goes to take the rail literally on one of the corners on her, and the leader at the time just literally cuts over and shuts her out and shoulder checks her. And then she was pissed. And then you can run with anger when there's only 150 left in a marathon. And she just left her in her dust. It was just like a
Seifa and Obiri.
Yeah, Obiri was third. Oseifa. I loved the contact. I know it might have been unsportsmanlike. It wasn't Safan Hassan's fault. It was, what's her name again? Obiri stands out. Oseifa. It was Oseifa stepping left and getting in her way. But it was fun to see. I like that in our sport. Let's get a little pecky. I'm into it. What do you think?
I'd rather have that than minute-long gaps in between people's results in the marathon.
Yeah.
A marathon can be an exciting race or it can be a snooze fest. And that was an exciting race. That was a track race on the roads for 2.5 hours under, but
yeah,
that's a long track race.
Safana-san's so interesting. She's like kind of built like a stick, right? Like she's like real gangly. She doesn't wear the kits that all the other women wear with like the bundies or the tights. She wears like a men's type jersey. And she just like kind of does her own thing, right? She's real sheepish on the start line. They put the camera.
She looks so asleep at the line.
They put the camera on her face, and she looks
like rubbing her face and trying to like wake up. It looks like
she like tries to hide her face from the camera when it's in front of her. She makes weird expressions. Like she's just kind of a goofy human, likable apparently if you watch her interviews. But she's just like an interesting character study, and she's clearly wired different. So I don't know. She's a fun show to watch.
Is. And she's one of those rare humans who can be like really lackadaisical, nonchalant, smiley, nice, and then an absolute rip your throat out killer when it counts. It's a fun juxtaposition to watch.
A little bit of Nagoose, but with more rip your throat out slightly, I would say.
Yeah.
All right, we're overdue, Brakken. Anything we should close with?
I think the sport is in really good hands. I think that moving forward, we can say the next couple world champs and Olympics will be every bit as good or better, because there's a lot of young people who can get better.
Yeah. I'm still going to be watching that 1500. Kerr said this is the greatest era of 1500 meters of all time, but it won't be if we don't break the world record.
Not wrong.
It won't be if we don't break the world record with this crew of people we got right now. And he's right. And so that show will be fun to watch. I mean, Hakeem El Garouge's...
I wonder if they'll ever band together.
I hope they do. But that'll be fun to watch.
Because El Garouge needed Bernard Lagat
Yeah.
to run that.
And how long ago that record? Is that the longest standing record in the distance events, the 1500? It's got to be.
Might just be the longest standing
In anything.
outside of women's 800.
Because it's the 90s when those were set. So that one's due.
Yeah.
That one I'm looking forward to just watching play out over the next 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. All right, should we wrap and get to work? You got a big workout to go run?
Yeah, I should probably go do that. And I'm sure you got something on the docket today, too.
This is the downside of the High Rocks life. This is a recovery day. I'm beat up, and I need to go lift heavy. That's it's fun, but it's not a pure recovery. You don't get pure recovery days with hybrid training.
Yeah.
And it's fun for a lot of people, but when you're used to as a runner, I'm going to go dawdle on the trail for a bit today. I'm going to go squat and deadlift today.
Put that high T to use, Brakken.
We're going to get that thing raging.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you later this week.
See ya.